If you love history, traditional arts and skills, and vintage living as much as I do, come join me here at the Homestead, where the conversations are always interesting and educational. I'm glad you're here. Hello, and welcome to Willow's Vintage Homestead, where we talk about all manner of old-timey topics. I'm your host, Willow Polson, and with me today is Abby Miller here to talk about crafting, connection, and community. And I think that's a very important and interesting topic. Why don't you give a little background, Abby, on how you arrived here?
So I work at the Mariposa Library currently, and I've worked there a little over 2 years. And I bring to that experience a background in behavioral health, specifically art therapy. So I'm really excited and have been for the past couple decades about using art as a healing tool and a tool to help people. Maybe I was in situations where maybe people are dealing with a crisis or a developmental difference where having an outlet where they can explore their creativity and kind of awaken their curiosity, but also reconnect to themselves and the people around them was really important. And I
Hmm.
see that same need in community work, whether or not people are in a crisis situation, having this space where you can strengthen your bonds through making things together is really meaningful. And I love being able to do that at the library.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
get, yeah. And I think I started working, well, let's see, we moved up here sort of at the tail end of COVID and living through that era where people were in increased isolation because of a pandemic, but also that's also a reality living in the mountains, right? That people maybe are a little more isolated because of where their home is or
Oh,
weather
yeah,
events,
definitely.
right? So anything we can do to kind of bring people together, whether it's seniors or children or everyone in between. The other thing I love about the work that I do is that it's intergenerational. So when we offer
Mm.
a craft workshop, we're often having people we may have 3 generations of the same family in the room, which is super exciting.
That's great. Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, you hear people kind of dismiss crafts as granny stuff, and oh, who wants to learn tatting? And it's like, but anecdote time. I do basketry as I was taught by a notable local person, and at the time in the 1980s when I was learning this from her, her relatives and extended family were just not interested in doing it.
Mhm.
um it seemed like, oh, it's all granny stuff, who wants to do that? This is the 80s, we're out having exciting times,
Mhm.
and happily though it's come full circle, and now there's multiple generations of people doing these important arts so that they're not lost. And that's part of why I do the folk school over in Coulterville, is to keep these things alive, so that what your grandmother, your great grandmother, your great great grandmother might have done on the daily is slipping through the cracks. People don't know how to do these things anymore. And I think that's an important part of our culture that we just can't lose.
Yeah, that really resonates with me. My mom recently retired in her 70s and has taken up weaving as well. And she is surrounded by these other elders that are really generous with their knowledge. And, there's a textile guild, so people share tools and will help if you have a mistake in the process. And that is knowledge we don't want to be lost, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and it's great to hear that there's a resurgence and the interest in learning those skills.
And
I
I
think
think in part because of COVID, I think a lot of people retracted and went into nesting mode. And they're like, well, what am I going to do with my time? I need to feel things. I need to touch grass. I need to, and so that embroidery has absolutely gone crazy. Cross stitch, crochet. I mean, there's young people teaching themselves at young ages to do. You look at Etsy, and it's just filled with handmade stuff, and I think it's
Mhm.
fantastic.
Yeah, and it's also nice that there's still a place for that in a world that's so increasingly on a screen,
Yes.
because the benefits to your mental health when you're making things are huge,
Yeah.
and just as an enrichment to your life, it's just, yeah, I've had experiences at the library where people are trying a skill that they haven't tried before, and they may be a little unsure of how that's going to feel, and then they get hooked.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
being exposed to something and being encouraged in like a supportive environment is really key to what I'm trying to do there and anywhere I'm able to bring craft and people together. So,
Yeah, yeah, I think maybe that's why a lot of people don't pick things up is because they're afraid to fail.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
tell people in some of my classes, look, at you didn't, if you already knew how to do this, you wouldn't be taking this class. It's okay to to not know what you're doing and to have your first efforts like not be spectacular. That's normal and okay. And but don't give up on it. I mean, you're not born, being an amazing artist. So
Right.
practice,
Yeah,
practice.
and I also love how those skills or kind of gaining confidence that you can learn a new skill in a craft setting can translate into so many other areas of your life, you know?
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, you have one little success in a room where you're learning how to tile a flower pot, and then the next thing it's some other area of your life, or maybe you make a friend, which is
Yeah.
also important.
Yeah,
Um,
tenacity and learning about what you do and don't like.
Yeah, I wanted to share an experience. So you and I chatted just briefly because you mentioned that you're going to be offering this plant dye workshop where part of what's exciting about it is gathering the material and
Mhm.
knowing like what season to gather it in. And I developed a similar interest in ink making. And actually, it was all because of the oak gall, which
Mhm.
ended up connecting me to a recipe that my great 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 uncle had used to write his journal. And
Oh, wow.
so he made oat gall ink, and I mean, by coincidence, I sort of got interested in it and then found the recipe that he used.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Oh, but if you wouldn't mind sharing that with me, I would be
oh,
honored.
absolutely, yeah, I can send you a picture of from his journal where he's handwritten
Oh,
it in cursive, and
oh my goodness.
I pretty much used the same exact recipe, except that he used Aleppo galls, which are from a Mediterranean species of oak.
Oh, wow.
But you can absolutely use the oak galls that grow around here too. So,
Right.
um,
That's exciting. I want to do a workshop on ink making, and I hope that you'll come and teach it maybe.
I would really love to. It was just this tiny little spark that led to learning about all these other things that you could make in the process of making ink and other materials you could forage. And so I had a chance to offer that as a workshop both at the Mariposa Library and the Wawona Library. And when I offered it in Wawona, there was this interesting mix of park employees that came to the event. And there was a person who showed up early and was kind of shy. And it was her first time working in Yosemite and she was from an urban environment. But as the night progressed, she got a little more comfortable opening up to people. And she shared that she was a person who knows how to make books. And then
Oh,
by the end of the night, it was kind of evolving into this okay, you could have a whole series of events where you're making the paper, you're making the book, you're forging the materials to make the ink. So you're kind of creating this whole series and the people that were excited about it each had something that they could bring to the table
oh,
to make
wow.
this larger vision possible. So I just feel like those moments are so important and they happen when you're in a room making things. You know, this kind of like natural thing that happens when you start talking and discovering things about each other just while you're engaged in a process like that. Another thing I wanted to share with you, we recently did a tiling of flower pot, a pretty kind of simple mosaic project with flower pots. But there was a person who came because she wanted to learn how to tile so that she could complete a mosaic that her mother had started before she passed away.
Oh,
And so, even though the method that we were using was a little different than what she would do to complete this project, we also try to get books that kind of support whatever craft we're offering. So, we had a book at the workshop that had step by step instructions for a tabletop mosaic, which is what she was working on. So, those kind of moments really matter too.
right, right.
Even if
All
it
that
just
knowledge.
yeah, it just gave her a way to connect to a resource that she needed and a little encouragement to say, "What a wonderful thing, and I hope you'll share the results with us when you complete it."
Well, that's okay, that's the community connection right there, right? As
Mhm,
is I was talking in another interview to a friend of mine. He and I are both odd fellows, and we're talking about community and well, volunteerism, but also how that has been kind of drifting over
mhm.
time, especially in modern society where everybody is, as you said, stuck on their device or stuck in their house and they're just not going out and speaking to other people. They're just sitting there and then getting lonely. And it's like, well, you could go like do something fun with your time. you know?
Right. Yeah,
So
sometimes it seems to me like that taking that initial step to leave your home is the hardest part, you know? Once you're in a space with other people, it becomes easier.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they think that people are likely to judge them, or it's strangers. I don't know this person, and
Mhm,
I don't know if that's what the concern is exactly. I mean, I know there's times when I'm highly introverted, and there's
mhm,
times when I'm like, I want to go to all the parties right now. Oh, it's just how
right,
I am. But we're just like creeping into a nation of introverts, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being an introvert, but I feel it can be limiting
mhm.
to well, and in fact, if there's like a crafting circle, like a sewing circle or a quilting bee or a class you take, it's that tactile shared experience, and you can learn from each other in ways that you just can't by yourself watching a YouTube video.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I also think there's certain types of art making that lend themselves to that type of introversion you're describing. I mean, it's important,
That's
right?
true.
But then there's other things, and this may be especially true of some traditional crafts where they're meant to be done in a room with other people.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
like a quilting bee. I mean,
absolutely. Another example that comes to my mind is Pisanki, which is a Ukrainian egg dyeing tradition, and
hmm,
it's really fun to do with other people. You use, a kiska, which is a wax stripping tool,
hmm.
and you draw these really intricate designs on eggs, and it takes all day, but the way that it's traditionally done is people cook something with the eggs that they're hollowing out, so you have a meal together, and you spend 4 or 5 hours each working on an egg,
Oh, wow.
so it's like this real bonding experience,
Oh,
and
it's you hollow them out so you have like you scrambled egg type material.
exactly, yeah, you can make a recipe that requires a lot of eggs, but yeah, that's, a favorite of mine that some Ukrainian friends introduced me to that years ago, and I still do it because it's about the egg, but it's also about the quality of time that's spent together in making it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, how
So
interesting. And like you were talking earlier about being an art therapist, and a thought that I had about that is that it's such a different type of healing for the mind, because you're just activating a completely different area of your brain to do a tactile and a highly visual thing. You can talk to somebody, it's just not the same as drawing a picture of what is affecting you.
well, I feel like it comes back to communication, right? So the way you store visual information in your brain is different, right? And it may help you to access things differently if you're seeking to connect with a memory. But then there's also muscle memory, right?
Mm.
So
Oh yeah.
when you learn a craft and you do it enough times, you kind of know what to reach for and how to weave things together if it's basket weaving, but yeah, I think you're like allowing yourself a chance to communicate with a different sense, you know, and that's really important.
Yeah, yeah, and what one thing that I like about going back again to the folk school, but I mean, we've been talking about both, modern and old-timey crafts, is the connection reaching back to the past as the past laid the groundwork for us to be here now. So things in the museum perhaps that we're looking at that are like, wow, somebody made that, 150 years ago. I can
Mhm.
make the same thing today, and it's that connection, not just living intergenerational classes with people in the room, but be knowing that I'm doing something that may have been done 200 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, and it links me to that distant past, and it's something I think about as I'm spinning and like say playing with my Hobbit core sort of stuff here. You
Yeah, yeah, I love that. That's a really special connection.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
even as a way of storytelling, you know?
yes,
So
good point.
yeah, like really paying attention to those objects and thinking about that connection. And then I think what I do is kind of a blend of being inspired by traditional craft, but then also sometimes just using workshops as a way to kind of, I don't know, I think storytelling comes to mind. Like we've done some collage workshops, for example, right? So it's
Hmm.
not a traditional craft, but it is something that gives people a chance to rearrange images into a new form and tell a story. And I love that. But I also think, as you were describing, like looking at the objects in the museum where you're hosting these workshops, that you could have people create art in response to the objects they're viewing in there, or
Hmm.
share a story if they feel a sense of connection to a particular object. And that type of thing is very appealing to me. The library right now, we're approaching our 100th anniversary as a library,
Oh, wow.
and that'll be in November of 2026. But kind of our goal is to do a year of programming around storytelling. And part of that could be visual storytelling, you know? So
Right.
that's exciting to me. Like,
Yeah.
and even using visual means as a way to connect people to the stories that have already happened here, you know, or to honor people that have passed through this community. Maybe they're no longer living, but they left a mark, and
Mhm.
we can elevate them through like if we do an image transfer workshop. That's something we were talking about doing in the fall.
Mm.
We're talking about creating an ofrenda, which is a Mexican tradition.
Mhm.
And we have a community member that helped us create one a couple years ago and is willing to do it again, but maybe including images of people that have made a contribution to Mariposa in our ofrenda.
That's
So,
cool.
and for listeners that may not be familiar with that tradition, it's associated with the Day of the Dead in Mexico. And
Mhm.
people create kind of an altar to honor their ancestors that may include photographs and flowers and candles and things of that nature. It's really a beautiful thing. And there's some other public libraries that have created them. And it's kind of a neat way for the community to come together. And again, that connection piece, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
People are willing to open up and share about a significant loss through art making. That can be
Right.
really beautiful too.
And seeing all of those people, I mean, chances are you're gonna recognize, "Oh, yeah, that person," Leroy Radonovich or someone that
Right.
many people in the community know. It brings the community together. It's not just a family thing, it's a community thing.
Yeah, yeah. And especially, I mean, I'm fairly new to this part of the world, and I think I've lived here now about 4 years, and it is a special place. And the way that people kind of look out for each other as a community, and
Mhm.
um, I mean, somewhat by necessity when there's natural disasters, but also just
Yeah.
it's a tourist town. People are friendly, and you know,
Right.
they're willing to help one another in a way that I think is pretty special, and also recognize those, like you mentioned, Leroy Radonovich. And even as a newcomer, I'm aware of who that person is,
Mhm.
and you know, some of their relatives come into the library and check out books on a regular basis. So
Nice, nice.
yeah.
As there's a saying in the certain communities, "What is remembered lives," and we're kind of wandering over into Dia de los Muertos, but that's a big thing over in Hornitos every year, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
it's nice to
Yeah.
have the cross cultural, the blending, the great melting pot of America, seen in these communities and in these community building and crafting workshops and events.
Yeah, and also, like, I love that saying "what is remembered lives," because it also applies to the tradition itself, right?
Hmm.
So it's that passing down that knowledge from the previous generation.
Yeah.
And another example that came to mind when you said that was we did a veterans workshop. For that, we just wanted to create an experience that would be fun for veterans and their families. And we did a paint night. So it
Ah.
was in November of last year. We're going to do it again this year. And we painted an image of a cardinal, but even just going around the room and people shared a little bit about like birds they might have a connection to. And there was a lot of seniors in the room, that some who had no prior painting experience,
Hmm.
and almost everyone participated in the painting portion of the
Oh,
event.
good.
And then at the end of the night, somebody told me, one of the veterans said that when he returned from a combat experience, and was really struggling with PTSD, it was connecting with art therapy that really helped him to process his experience. And he
Right.
was like, even though what we were doing wasn't art therapy, it was just a night of celebrating and enjoying one another's company and
Hmm.
making something together. It brought up that memory for him, and that just felt really good, you know?
Oh,
That
yeah.
Yeah, so being able to offer that to people in the community, I just love.
Yeah, that kind of expression. I mean, you can't make art without putting a little of yourself out into that art, right? Like if you're
Yeah.
painting something, part of you ends up in that painting. And
Mhm,
that's true, I think, of any art,
mhm.
because it's your time, it's your hands, it's your mind. It all gets in there. So I mean, you can't help but if you're having an intense memory like that, you can't help but have it bubble up and end up in a painting. So that's a
Yeah, definitely.
It goes back to storytelling, right?
Yeah, another thing that we've had great success with, and we did this in partnership with the Master Gardeners. We're not doing it this year, but the past couple years we did a fairy woodland workshop, and that was another great kind of storytelling type of craft because we brought a bunch of natural materials and then people could kind of choose however they wanted to create their little habitat.
Mhm.
And we had, again, different generations of families working together, and they sort of create these habitats that relate to their experience as a family,
Mhm.
and they enter them into the fair. So
Oh, fun.
they create a new category at the fair just for these
Oh, wow.
habitats. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm
Right.
really especially excited about projects that involve nature,
Mhm.
tradition, like we mentioned,
Right.
and opportunities to kind of honor the people in our community.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's definitely what goes through my mind every time I'm weaving. And I've had some criticism from some that I shouldn't be doing it because I'm not a native person. But do it. What you do when no one is watching is the truth is another saying that I really like. And so when I am weaving, I'm doing it for my own heart, for the tradition that I was taught and that connection to the land because again you have to know when to gather things, how to process them. This is the process. How long does it take to make a basket? I'm often asked, and the answer is it takes a lifetime because you have to
Right.
know so intimately those materials and listen to what they say. You leave an offering, and there's very specific ways you have to do these things, and it tells the story of what I've learned, what I've observed. The patterns that I choose to put in is another method of storytelling, right? I mean, we
Mhm,
see
mhm.
these static objects in museums that are from long ago. Why did they choose those materials? Why did they choose those patterns to express themselves? I was asked by somebody, why put patterns in a basket at all? If you're just going to use it for a cooking pot, why not just leave it plain? And it's, well, because it's an expression. It's
Yeah.
telling everyone who made the basket. It's sharing your artistic love. Those things matter even in a utilitarian object. Make it beautiful. That's one thing that I
Mhm.
hate about this the current brutalism in all architecture always nowadays is that you look at Victorian stuff, it's so gorgeous, and then you look at a modern building, it's like, wow, that's hideous. Yeah.
Yeah. That pattern as a way to tell story is really intriguing too. Even with the I mentioned earlier, the Ukrainian pisanki,
Hmm.
different patterns are would be given to different people depending on their age and their kind of what they're going through in life. So, for
Oh,
example, if
interesting.
someone is an elder, like they would receive a pattern that is associated with immortality, or a person who's young and maybe engaged might get a fertility symbol, you know? So if
Right.
you're embracing the traditional patterns, and I sort of love to kind of learn about those things and then riff
Hmm.
off of them and maybe create things that are inspired by that tradition, but have a different, maybe more individual narrative.
Hmm.
So
Well, and
that's
you're putting yourself into what you're making, right? So it's coming through your lens, right?
yeah, yeah. But I love that like that exists as a. I mean, we kind of touched on it earlier. Is like when you're making things visual objects, like it's a different way of communicating, right? And so a
Hmm.
pattern is also a way of communicating.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
whether it connects you directly to the same pattern that's been made for 1,000 years or one that you've created to tell your more personal narrative,
Hmm.
it matters, just like your color choice matters and so many other things. Yeah.
Yep, yep. And yeah, something else touching back to what I was saying about, it takes a lifetime to make a basket. It definitely gives you an appreciation for the amount of work that goes into something when you have to do it yourself. And I always
Yeah.
tell people in my classes, hey, if you want to go to this museum and see this thing that took this lady 4 years to make, you'll now understand why it took her 4 years
Right.
to make that. You're not just going to run down to Walmart and spend $10 and buy something. It's like, no, no. This thing that you're about to make is going to take you 6 hours, and
Yeah.
they're like, oh no. And I'm like, oh yes.
Yeah.
And you're going to learn a lot while you're doing it too.
Yeah. Like you said earlier, it takes a lifetime to make a basket
Yeah. Well, it sounds like
because
the
of all
same
the
for the oh, I'm going to mess it up. Piscanki?
Pisanki. Yeah.
Pisanki. There it is. Thank you. I knew I was going to. The important parting thoughts that you would like to
Um,
share.
just that it's exciting to think about these things and to continue to think about ways to offer them in our community. I'm thrilled about what you're doing in North County, and I really
Yay.
hope I get to, get a little more involved with that, but
Well, me
it's
too.
just
I'll just come and get you. There, that'll solve the
yeah,
whole thing.
that'd be great. Yeah, and I'm just, like, excited about the library being able to offer that as well,
Yeah.
it's been
Yeah.
great to see.
You don't often think of a library as offering craft classes, but yet oh, and you've got a 3D printer over there too.
We do, and we've been doing right now we have a sign language workshop,
Oh,
and I
wow.
think, like, the role of libraries in society is shifting a little bit,
Mhm, mhm.
that we are functioning as a community center in addition to a library. It's not just a place
Yeah.
that stores books and has computer internet access, which are both really important things, but yeah, it's also a place where we connect people with resources that they benefit from, and craft can definitely be a part of that.
Right,
So
right. Yeah, good point. Yep, yep. Everyone over there is very helpful every time I've been over there,
oh, good.
and yeah, so it is a great resource. So if you don't know where to find something or how to do something, I mean, definitely ask a librarian. They know everything. So,
Or they're happy to look for it usually, so
right, 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 right.
well, thank you so much for the
Yeah.
chance to talk, and, yeah, I look forward to meeting you in person.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to oh that ink recipe that just blows my mind. Yay. And then I first found out about that type of ink when I was visiting. Of course, I'm an absolute history geek, right? So I go on my honeymoon to Colonial Williamsburg. We both agreed that was where we wanted to go. Was Colonial Williamsburg and the Smithsonian, and that was our honeymoon. So
Mhm.
people go to Hawaii, they go to wherever. It's like, no, no, we're going to see museums.
I love it.
Right, and I'm like, "Oak gall ink, you don't say," and so now I've been obsessed with learning how to do it. I never have, but now I have
Oh,
a recipe. I'll have a recipe.
oh, you'll have a recipe, and I'm more than happy to come and do a workshop and show you in person, along with
Fabulous.
some others. I'm getting
Brilliant.
ready as soon as the wild grape is ready to harvest, that's the
Mm.
next one on my list, but there's all kinds of things. I've made acorn ink, walnut ink,
Wait, grape ink?
elderberry.
What?
Yeah, you can make ink with the wild
What?
grape. So,
What? Can you do it with blackberries? I just got like 2 pounds yesterday.
you definitely can.
What?
Berries yeah, berry ink is not color fast,
Oh, it's a
so
fugitive dye, that's why I can't make nice
exactly.
purple yarn either, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not great for dyeing textiles, but I think if you approach ink making with kind of the wait and see what happens and just have fun with it, berry ink can be a lot of fun to, like, learn about pH and what
Uh-huh. It's
happens when
just
you kind of add baking soda or vinegar or,
oh, yeah, this is
um,
almost identical to plant dyes, yeah.
it's very similar. In fact, there's a new book at the library about dyeing with mushrooms. Um,
Oh,
and it's for textiles, but a lot of it you can also apply to ink making. And I did
cool.
make ink with the Western jack-o'-lantern mushroom, and that was really interesting because I made a couple versions of it, and when I added ferrous sulfate, which is essentially iron,
Yep.
the color changes about 10 minutes after you apply it to the page.
Oh,
So
what?
it's super cool, yeah. But
Oh,
people make either green or purple, textile dye with the Western jack-o'-lantern mushroom.
I
I have
didn't even
not
know
been
that.
able to achieve that result with ink, but there
Ah,
is a recipe for that in
huh.
the book I was speaking of, which is in the Mariposa Library.
I will have to go check it out. I've never even heard of that mushroom before, partly because 'cause I'm allergic to mushrooms, so I don't pay much
Oh,
attention to them, but
yeah, yeah,
but
this one
I
is
think just if
toxic,
I
you
eat
don't wanna
them,
eat it.
so yeah.
Yeah.
I'll wear
Yeah.
gloves. Anyway, yeah, we actually really do need to go at this point.
Okay.
Just going on.
Okay,
So,
no problem. Okay, well,
um,
thank you so much for your time, and, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out.
absolutely, and, thanks everybody for listening. Please go visit your public library and go and make something cool, all right? That's it for this time. We'll see you again soon. Bye.